Symposium for the 10th of September 2020. The text is a little small on my computer screen. Today we are going to look at Bitcoin. Okay, so we had this area of demand, and this area of demand just here was identified by the software when the second white candle in this area of accumulation was formed. And so while many people felt that they had missed this trade when price started to move north, people who were either using the Pipnotic software or understood how flows moved in a market were patient because they knew that price had to come back to the origin of this move sooner or later. In this case, it was much later. So we had an enormous release. Price removed all of the supply in this area here, this messy supply. We dashed north. We came up to kind of the thicket of the price just up in here, and this, you see the white candle just here. We came to it. We came back down here. We started to advertise these very cheap prices at this area of demand, and then price left. Okay, so this is very interesting, and if you're interested to use the software in order to help you identify areas of supply and demand like this, then go to pipnotic.com, click on the shop in the menu, and you can sign up and get access to our software. So price poked into this area here. We moved north. We revisited this sell zone here. Price pulled down. We have lots of white candles here. What does that mean? Well, that means the price is moving sideways. We're distributing liquidity. Okay, so the sell side of the market is selling liquidity. The buy side is buying. And this buying on the buy side, selling on the sell side, ultimately caused price to dash higher, consuming all of these areas of supply just here. So as I mark these off with a rectangle, you can see this is a little bit messy, but you can see it looks something like this. Our price moved sideways. We tested it once, twice, three times, and we started to paint these white candles just below. Then we gapped north, and so now this area is gone. Okay, there's no supply in here. Okay, we do have the beginning of a sell zone here. We'll have a look at that in just a second, what that means and what that looks like. But currently price is reacting at this weekly area of demand, which is really ugly. I'm going to explain why in just a second. And you can see that we poked into it. We had a bit of a rejection, so we had resistance become support, which is essentially what's playing out. But this area here, this is gone, so I'm going to remove that. We're going to have a look at this area down here, and we're going to try and find an area that we can expect price to have a bit of a bounce at. So when you look at an area like this, I mean, there's a lot of trading around this area here. When price goes up and down and up and down and up and down, what it's doing is it's removing liquidity located at that area. And so what this tells me is when price comes back down to this area in the future, which it's currently beginning to do now, this makes me feel as if price is going to have to come lower to a more ideal looking area of demand. This is not an ideal area looking of demand. This is thin. This is a picture of thin liquidity. This is just price moving up and down like so. We finally jumped up. Price came down. We reacted at the beginning of the sell zone just here, and now price is looking to sit at this area, and it might sit on this area for a little bit longer before it potentially moves lower to a more attractive buy zone. Okay, but this is not that. This is not the picture of an attractive buy zone. Okay, so let's have a look at this and see if we can find an attractive buy zone that we may entertain for a buy in the future. Okay, so yes, I mean, there's one that jumps out at us immediately. This is an area that was marked off. You can see how price moves sideways, and this is simply because this is where price gapped away from. We moved up into the sell zone, we can see, then price moved down. We have lower lows and lower highs, hence the downward sloping trend line. So we have a downward trend on the daily chart. What I don't like is I don't like this. And this area here, this push here removed the weekly supply that we saw on the previous chart. This one did it. And then you ask yourself the question, what's the lowest area that price came down to prior to removing this area of weekly supply? And so you look at this piece here, this mess, then you look for those slingshots that will pull back. And there's one, and it's right here. So this is a slingshot. This is the beginning of a buy zone. The area of demand that's interesting to us is this one just here. And this is interesting for a couple of reasons. We had a nice area of supply here. When price left here, we tore market structure to pieces on historically, so the areas on the left side of the chart. Let me close this. We don't need this open, and we have more to look at. So all of these micro areas of demand down here, they were gone, and this area did it. Price came up to it. We revisited it once here. We actually came to the lows, so we'll just go to the lows roughly. Price came to it, we rejected, we came up to it, we sat and we stuck, and we started to accumulate just below it. When price does that, it sticks to an area. It's telling us that there is not an imbalance in supply and demand at that point. If there was, price would poke up to it and then move down immediately, or poke down into an area of demand and then retreat immediately. This is not happening here. Price rallies and then we start painting white candles below it. That's telling us to fasten our seatbelts, tighten our helmets, and prepare for an enormous thrust north, okay, in the situation of demand consuming supply. And we saw that from this area here. What does that tell us? Well, that means that price will likely come down to the origin of this move that removed the supply and essentially move the weekly supply that we saw on the other chart. And you can see that the origin of that move is the low of this here. Price came back, the slingshot pullback, price moved higher, we started to move sideways. This is orders being filled, white candles, and then we had that push north. But I think price is going to come down to around the 77.50 area before it continues moving higher. And we might have some intraday or maybe intra-week pushes north from this area here, but this is just not a nice, attractive area of supply. This is thin liquidity. This is buy limits. This is strong buying. This is just price kind of, doing nothing. Okay, price is simply just taking a bit of a breather. Big push. Where's price going to go? My expectation, it's going to go to the 77.50 area, and buying will begin from the low of this pullback just here. Okay, so this is where you could expect price to move higher from.